Good morning. This is Omni View, episode 121 for July 23, 2026. Balanced news perspectives. Today's stories from around the world, multiple viewpoints, your call. The United States has signed a landmark nuclear agreement with Saudi Arabia, reshaping energy ties and non-proliferation rules across the Middle East. The United States and Saudi Arabia have completed a nuclear cooperation agreement focused on civilian nuclear technology. Official statements describe the arrangement as a landmark step. Live coverage from the BBC indicates that details of the pact will continue to be tracked as further steps are taken. The agreement addresses civilian uses rather than military applications. The pact emerges against a backdrop of energy security talks involving the United States and several Middle Eastern governments. BBC reporting frames the deal as an expansion of civilian nuclear capacity conducted under established international oversight. Saudi officials have stressed the value of technology transfer and the chance to diversify energy sources away from oil dependence. Standard elements in such agreements include fuel supply commitments and inspection requirements, though the exact terms of this version are still under review by observers. Implementation details and any required approvals will be monitored in coming months. Shifting now to developments in pharmaceutical research. In Silico Medicine's chief executive officer reported that artificial intelligence has cut the drug discovery timeline in China to approximately 1 year. The statement concerns the company's efforts to identify and move forward new chemical compounds. Reuters coverage presents the timeline as a notable reduction from conventional multi-year sequences. No additional information on regulatory approvals or clinical trial results was included. Research teams across China have incorporated machine learning systems into the initial screening stages of pharmaceutical development. Reuters notes that the shorter cycle represents a clear departure from earlier industry norms. Companies operating in Asia have cited reduced computing expenses and access to extensive local data collections as key supporting factors. Regulatory bodies worldwide are evaluating how these faster processes align with existing safety evaluation standards. Meanwhile, currency markets show sharp movement. The US dollar reached a new 40-year peak against the Japanese yen. The advance coincided with tensions linked to Iran and wider movements in currency markets. At the same time, the dollar moved slightly lower against the euro. Reuters reporting connects the yen's decline to investor decisions shaped by geopolitical developments. Japanese officials have previously expressed concern that sharp currency shifts can raise costs for imported goods. Market participants in Asia have observed that the dollar's position influences pricing in regional trade. Central banks in the United States and Japan are watching volatility levels without announcing immediate policy changes. Next, semiconductor supply contracts. Intel and AMD have concluded long-term supply contracts for server central processing units with customers in China. Sources cited by Reuters indicate that prices for these components have increased. The agreements extend over multi-year delivery periods. Reuters describes the contracts as reflecting steady demand from China's data center industry. Chinese technology companies have sought reliable component sources amid changing international chip policies. U.S. semiconductor firms continue to operate under existing export controls while pursuing commercial sales. Industry observers note that the price increases reflect both rising demand and limits on component availability. Turning to technology access patterns. Variable U.S. government decisions on access to advanced AI models are reported to be increasing use of lower-cost Chinese open-weight alternatives. The pattern affects developers who require steady model availability. The Economist article points out that policy uncertainty in the United States has opened space for more affordable Chinese options. Technology firms in Asia have presented these alternatives as practical choices for smaller development teams. U.S. laboratories maintain leadership in cutting-edge capabilities, yet licensing and export rules shift with short notice. Market participants observe that cost differences are shaping purchasing choices outside heavily regulated areas. Another perspective comes from an economist essay on technology rollout. The piece states that governments, not companies alone, set the speed at which new technologies enter widespread use. The essay draws on historical cases involving regulatory and infrastructure choices. The article reviews how licensing requirements, public funding, and safety rules have influenced adoption rates during previous industrial transitions. Policymakers in various regions have applied these tools to speed up or slow down deployment in line with national goals. Companies adjust their rollout plans in response to the resulting incentive structures. Historical examples are offered as background for current discussions on artificial intelligence and automation. Now, some progress worth knowing about. The UK government announced a 20% reduction in business rates for pubs, clubs, and live music venues in England, beginning in April. Prime Minister Andy Burnham introduced the measure as assistance for the hospitality sector. The change lowers operating expenses for thousands of venues that have faced post-pandemic and inflation-related pressures. Industry organizations have welcomed the reduction while noting that energy and labor costs continue to present challenges. Local authorities will handle administration of the adjustment, and the Treasury has stated it will track effects on revenue. The measure is set to take effect in the next fiscal year. Now, to really understand this story, most coverage treats a nuclear deal as a single event, yet these agreements are multi-year frameworks that separate civilian technology transfers from weapons-related activities through detailed safeguards. The core mechanism involves the supplier country providing reactors or fuel, while the recipient accepts International Atomic Energy Agency inspections and limits on enrichment or reprocessing. Historical parallels show that the 2008 US-India deal and earlier agreements with the UAE both required side letters on fuel supply and spent fuel return to reduce proliferation risks. Knowing this structure, when you hear claims that a new pact immediately changes regional power balances, you can check whether the text includes those specific inspection and fuel provisions or only outlines future negotiations. One concrete step is to look for the IAEA's Public Safeguards report on the country in question once the agreement is submitted for review. Another useful check is to compare the stated civilian scope against any public statements from the recipient government on enrichment plans. Review of past agreements also shows that implementation often depends on follow-up bilateral protocols that specify inspection frequency and reporting timelines. These protocols can take additional months or years to finalize after the initial signing. Tracking the sequence of those follow-up documents provides a clearer picture than the signing announcement alone. If you want to go deeper on today's lead, compare how the BBC and Reuters frame technology transfer issues in different sectors. Tomorrow, watch for any follow-up statements from the International Atomic Energy Agency on inspection arrangements tied to the new agreement. That's Omni View. The news can feel heavy, but understanding what's actually happening and what's being done about it beats doom scrolling every time. Stay curious, pick one story from today and read it from a second outlet you don't usually open. If balanced perspectives are valuable to you, share this with a friend and subscribe wherever you listen. See you tomorrow. And if you'd rather watch than listen, find us on YouTube at NARA Network. Links in the show notes. One more thing. If you liked today's episode, our sister show Models and Agents for Beginners is worth a spot in your feed. Artificial intelligence explained simply for beginners and curious teens. It's one of the NARA Network's daily briefings, all free at naranetwork.com. The Do Positive Pod is the club for people who do something about it. Episodes and the dispatch wall at naranetwork.com/thedppod. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.